From monsters and ghosts to otherworldly beings, join the Explorers as they venture into the darkest realms, seeking the truth to what goes bump in the night.
Good afternoon, folks. Today I'm joined by Les and Cabbage of Explorers Seekers of the Truth. Would you say hi, Les?
Hello, everyone. How are you?
Oh, doing pretty good today, Les. How are you?
Very, very good.
Okay, so let's get to the meat of the issue. We'll be doing some investigations this coming weekend, and one of the places we're going to is the Haldeman Mansion. And what makes you want to investigate the Haldeman Mansion, Les?
What makes me want to investigate the Haldeman Mansion? Where do I begin? Well, I'd probably have to say, to begin with, it would have to be just the simple age of the home and the estate. I mean, you have the Haldeman Mansion itself, which dates back well into the 1800s, and I believe other parts of the property, like the a spring kitchen that they have outside, is even older than the home itself. And to put the cherry on top of this sundae, if you will, it's also said that the land was once Native American land, where I guess there was a Native American settlement on that same exact property. So you kind of have a little bit of settlers or American history, if you will, of the people who settled the land, as well as the indigenous people that had settled the land. So it's kind of a twofer, if you will. So I'm really interested to see what we could drum up because of that in particular.
Yeah, it is quite interesting. I mean, I look at it too. I mean, you're right down the river from 3 Mile Island. You're actually right up the river from Wrightsville, which would tie into our second investigation, which will be in Gettysburg. During the Civil War, during the Gettysburg campaign, they actually burned the bridge at Wrightsville to keep the Confederates from crossing it. So I think it's a very historical area. It has a ton of history. I mean, like you said, the Native American, the colonial, the Civil War, even into the 1979, 3 Mile Island disaster. So I think it's a very interesting area.
Well, yeah, I mean, another thing that I think would maybe help out with our possible activity, if you will, paranormal activity, is the fact that the mansion is located right off of the Susquehanna River. So, as a lot of people say, that water creates an energy, which a lot of times when there's like a well or an underground water source or some kind of moving water, that's also an indicator that there might be heightened activity. And as you had stated too, the 3 Mile Island, there might be, I don't know how much it would correlate to paranormal activity, but there could be a chance that maybe radiation or just the sheer energy of that building being so close, or that, whatever you want to call it, plant, that too may be another reason why there seems to be a lot of activity at this location. And, there's been a lot of groups that have investigated the mansion and the property, and they had a lot of luck drumming up activity of their own. So I'm hoping that it is all legitimate and it's not, any kind of scam or anything, if you will. I'm really hoping that, we find something very credible.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of the videos and some of the EVPs that have been posted over the last couple of years. I mean, we had actually planned on doing this about 4 years ago, or 3 years ago, and we finally are getting around to doing it. And over the years, I've kind of kept an eye on it, and yeah, there is a lot of evidence that's been collected. Again, how much of it is valid evidence and how much of it is a little bit of a put on to get people there. But so, first thing, when you arrive there, what is the first area you want to check out?
Well, as I said before, I think really the place that really excites me is that spring kitchen or summer kitchen that's located outside of the main building itself, just because that is so old and it is on the property the longest, and it's just this little satellite structure. I don't know, there's something about that really makes me want to kind of hone everything in on that. whether we have a physical person out there or a static cam and an EVP recorder out there. I'm really hoping that we could get something in there. I don't know. My gut feeling is that's where we're going to get a lot of the activity.
Yeah, I believe so too. I mean, just from reading what has been posted and stuff like that, a lot of the activity is revolves around certain areas of the house, and that being one of them. I think the first place I want to go check out is the cemetery, their family cemetery. It's very old, and if nothing paranormal, just to get photos of an old cemetery. I kind of have that weird sense of like gothic stuff kind of photographed and stuff like that's always interesting to me. Where do you feel the most interesting area on the property being? Now, we've discussed the summer kitchen. If you had to pick a secondary location that you think we might get the most activity out of, what are you thinking?
Oh, boy. I would say probably the property itself, not in the structures, but I would like to, walk around the perimeter, because it was supposed to be, Native American settled land. And I correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that they actually had like a village, if you will, there, and they lived on that land until the Haldeman mansion was built, or whoever was the predecessor of the Haldeman. I believe that I really want to. I don't know. I think that would be a pretty cool place.
Yeah, I believe from what I've seen that they've actually found from the Native American settlement, they've actually found graves that would be on the property, like actual burial sites on the property. And I've seen photos of it, and I've seen something about it. I'm not correlating exactly where in the property it was, but yes, there was a settlement there on that side of the river, and there was another settlement that sat across the river from them. So you got to figure there was a lot of, the river, especially with Native American and early cultures, you needed water. There was fishing. There was ways to move goods and stuff like that. So, yeah, there's definitely got to be some history there. So now, a lot of people, get into this. Oh, do you believe in ghosts? Do you not believe in paranormal stuff? As an investigator, you almost kind of have to believe in it, but at the same time, you don't. So what are your feelings on paranormal activity?
Well, oh God, that's kind of a loaded question right there. This may sound contradictory, so bear with me. I'm a believer and I'm a skeptic, if that makes any kind of sense. I was witness to something paranormal when I was younger. It's a conversation I think we could have for another show, but it has to do with Native Americans, ironically. I, along with several other members of my family, witnessed this specter, if you will. I still remember it to this day. I mean, not in vivid detail, but I do remember the happening. However, with that being said, I mean, I've always had experiences throughout my life, but I still am, in a way, skeptic, because I want to see, again, if you will, I want to see in my adult life where I could where I could better rationalize. I want that holy grail, if you will, of a sighting. I want to see like a full form specter. Like I want to see a human spirit, if you will, in front of me. You know what I mean? Like I want to see that stereotypical ghost. I want to see that. Like that I believe is what would make me believe, and why. I think another part of your question was what got me into this, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, like I stated before, I've had an experience when I was a kid, when I was a child. I've had experiences all throughout my life. No matter where I lived, I always seen, heard, smelt, felt something, no matter where it was. Actually, where one of the biggest places was when you and I actually lived together in the old house in Minersville. You and I both had experienced a lot of activity in that place, and I think it's because of those experiences that really got me into wanting to know more, wanting to find out more, wanting to document and capture, if you will, on video and on, through a camera, whatever. I want proof. I want proof to make sure, or to almost validate what I experienced. Was it real, or was it a subliminal, subconscious thing? I want proof. I just want to basically validate what I think I know.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with you. I mean, yeah, we've had shared experience over the years. And yeah, I think at a certain point, like as a child, you go through these things and, half the people tell you, oh, it's your imagination. You're just making things up. And even though sometimes you shared those experiences with older family members, they kind of play it off as, you're a kid, you didn't really see that. You put more to it now, and sometimes, as we've all seen, you start to add things to it as you go. Yeah. But I'm the same boat. I'm a believer from what I've seen, but I'm also a very big skeptic on a lot of stuff because I'm not there to personally witness it. So
not only that, but I mean, there's a lot of hoax and bogus stuff floating around, and as much as we share with people and ourselves, experiences we had, in the back of your head, you're always like, what a bunch of BS. You know what I mean? Like you hear people, we've had our own experiences, we've gone through our own share of activity. But then when you start hearing other people's stories and this and that right away, and I mean, maybe I'm just speaking for myself, but it's almost like right away you're like, oh, yeah, great, okay, yeah, right.
Yeah.
I think like you had said, when we're young, we're naive, we're vulnerable, we don't, for lack of better terms, we don't know any better, we're pure. So I think the experiences are more real back then, but as you grow, you're almost forced into that mindset that monsters don't exist, so stop talking about it. So it's almost like you're forced to rationalize that it isn't what it is. So I think, like you said, that's what makes us skeptic, even though we've experienced things. So I just want that 100% validation.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that. It's one of those things where I've listened to people tell me stories and I've kind of sat there and looked at them like, okay, is it real? Is it, their imagination? Are they making stuff worse than it was? But yeah, I mean, I think that's the reason we all get involved is because we all want to validate our own belief. So now on Saturday, explorers will be heading to the Homestead Orphanage, or as some people may know it, the Soldiers Museum or the Gettysburg Orphanage. Now, you've investigated the Homestead Orphanage before. Can you give us your thoughts on the building and its possible paranormal history?
Well, I'd almost like to turn that question back on you because, I mean, I always turn to you as my immediate historian. I mean, I've been there. I mean, I'll give you my part. The building is super old. I mean, it even predates the Civil War, and it went through the Civil War, so it has all that energy, wrapped up in it. But it also has, in its own, a very, very dark past. Now, I mean, did all the things happen in there that they claim happened? I don't know. But it makes for a hell of a story, and it would truly make for, some really great activity as far as, you have this mistress who oversees the orphanage. She's like the head lady, and she's twisted, and she torments and abuses and sodomizes and tortures these poor orphan kids. If it wasn't bad enough that they went, they don't have their family, they're then put into this group home, if you will, with this sadistic, twisted woman who shows absolutely no love towards them. And if she does show any kind of affection, it's in the rewards of doing horrible deeds to children smaller than you. So, I mean, that part is what I would say would be the fuel for the paranormal activity that may be there. When we were there, I didn't experience much, unfortunately. But there is, I mean, I haven't experienced anything audible, physical, we didn't get much, but there is a very ominous feeling about the place when you go in there. It almost feels like fear. I mean, what about you? I mean, we were there in the pit together. I mean, to me, it just seemed like just fear. Not that I was afraid. Oh God, I'm in a dark basement in a hole. It was almost like I was feeling somebody else's fear. What did you get from it?
Yeah, with the orphanage, a lot of times, I mean, I've been there, I've investigated it with you, as explorers. I've been there over the years. I've shopped in the store, I've taken the tours. It definitely is there's definitely a feeling when you're there that you are definitely not in control of your own emotions, and you kind of take on like the energy of the building. And I mean, I've seen, I have talked to people who work there, rather extensively, and, discussed the different happenings and all that. And, I've met the person who was locked in the basement for 20 minutes. I believe that person's story. Do I believe it was paranormal or something else? Could it malfunctioning lock? You never know for sure, but you start to put two and two together, and you're coming up to this, every time, this building. And I mean, you were kind of mentioning Rosa, and, she was there for 10 years. She didn't start out horrible. She
was the head lady of the orphanage, correct?
She was not the original mistress of the home. That was Homestead, whose husband had died at the Battle of Gettysburg. She had taken over in about 1867, I believe. Rosa had taken over. And in the beginning, from all accounts, she was a lovely person, treated those kids really well. You got to realize it's built right up against the cemetery on part of the battlefield. I guess as any person left to their own devices at a certain point, did the fact of it was her and these children, did it eventually wear her out, and this is what she became, this horrible, monster-like person? I mean, personally, anytime I'm there, I always have that feeling that she's there, that she's looking, from the corners and stuff like that. It's always just that creepy, there's something here that's darker. Even in the shadows at times, I always feel like there's like darker spots in the shadow. You and I have both spent time in the pit. You do feel this weird, is it a fear? Is it, anxiety? we both experienced it. Now, I mean, when we did the EVP with the sessions and stuff like that, we really didn't get a lot. Now, when we used the spirit box, we did get a little bit more activity and some answers that kind of fit with questions. But even then, there at times, you could kind of feel like people like every so often tugging on you or, trying to get your attention. So, I mean, I'm excited about it. I think it's definitely, I mean, we've seen it on all the major television shows. There's definitely something going on there. You and I have swept the place with, the meters and stuff like that, and we've found some areas that'll give you spikes. And so we're going to work hard to avoid those areas as much as possible within the realm of actually investigating.
We found that a lot of those energy spikes that most people would be like, oh god, my EMF is going up. Well, no, that's because it's a cluster of power lines or this and that. So you're right. Yeah, we're going to avoid them. We're going to try and like the pit that you were talking about before. For anybody listening, is the place where Rosa Carmichael, the headmistress, would basically chain these children to the wall and leave them. It's literally a hole in the wall in the basement that is as dark, dank, and primitive as you can imagine. Like a medieval dungeon would be the best representation. That she would leave these children down there in the dark for days, weeks at a time, alone. And it is just creepy. And those are the areas that we like to focus on, because I would imagine any child, any person for that matter, that would be left alone in a situation like that, chained and unable to move and not knowing what is around you, the energy or the emotion that you would muster from yourself would have to almost be imprinted into the stones around you. So that's why we like to focus on the pit, which is what Chad kept mentioning before. That's the prime location of the orphanage that we like to focus on, but there is other areas as well that we like to look at too. But down when we were in the pit, I don't remember any when we did the sweep, there were no spikes that we found. We didn't see any visible power lines, nothing that was making our meters go off. But when we were down there and we were doing a series of questions with the spirit box and just regular EVP sessions, we did get a couple spikes on the meter, and it would be in correlation with the questions that we asked, and also on our Mel meter, which is kind of a EMF temp gauge kind of thing. We were getting spikes on that as well. So that is definitely an area that I want to go back to, because it's almost untainted as far as obvious spikes on the meters, like obvious electrical wires or anything, any kind of known hot spots that would set a meter off that wouldn't be paranormal. So
yeah, we did actually have there for a little bit. I mean, you and I had stepped out and we let the girls go in and try it, and they got nothing from the same spot, yet we were getting a lot of spikes, and it was lighting up the meters, and didn't correlate into a lot of EVP or anything like that, but we did get a lot of sitting still in an area we had already sweeped with a device laying down on a ledge, watch it sit there and spike and then go back down, and spike and go back down. So yeah, it's definitely an exciting area to work. And one of the things, we're actually, bringing 2 other members with us this time, that we've added to the team, so we're going to have definitely a good amount of coverage with, new camera system, and be able to, we're also, you might want to talk about this a little bit less, we're going to be doing Facebook Live during it?
Yeah, if we could figure it out.
We just push a button.
The technology, I've never really tried Facebook Live, but I really think it would be a great thing to take our viewers, if you will, or our followers, 'cause as we have a Facebook page, Xplorers has, we have our Facebook page and we have some followers on there. So we'd like to be able to do kind of a Facebook Live while we're on site of the different locations. We're going to be doing the mansion, and I don't know if we had mentioned this before, but the mansion is going to be a little bit more special because we're not just going there. Most pay-to-play places, if you will, you would spend, you pay so much and you get a couple of hours. We're actually spending the entire night in the Haldeman mansion. No heat, no nothing. It's just basically, I think they do have some electricity, but we're going to be, bringing the sleeping bags and pulling an all-nighter at this place. So this is going to be something very different for us. I mean, we usually only get, certain amount of hours at a given location, and this is going to be all night. So we're going to be completely exposed to everything, and I'm really looking forward to that. I think that's going to be great. And while we are there, we're going to try and do some Facebook Live, any kind of updates, anything that we get that we feel is worth talking about. We're going to try and get on Facebook and talk about it. We might throw a couple written messages up there about what's going on, just trying to keep people informed. But we're going to try the Facebook Live. This is going to be a first for us. And I know YouTube Live has a feature too, but let's just baby steps to start it with with Facebook. See if we could get that going. And then when we get to the orphanage as well, we'll be doing some Facebook Live there, just as long as we get the permissions for it. And I think we'll be trying to, we'll be able to keep everybody with us. So I think it'll be exciting.
Yes, I am looking at our schedule. I do believe we'll actually be doing several different Facebook Lives even while we're not investigating. We have some time set aside in between Friday night and Saturday night where we're going to do some evidence review. So we may be going live during that. We're going to do some live shots from around town in Gettysburg and give you some ideas of things to do in Gettysburg while we're there.
Yeah, lots of good stuff, people. So I hope you are all following and listening and watching.
Well, I would like to thank you, Les, for joining me this afternoon and giving us a couple minutes of your time. I know you're busy getting ready for this, so I'd like to thank you.
Well, thank you for chit-chatting.
No problem, buddy. I will see you Friday.
From monsters and ghosts to otherworldly beings, join the Explorers as they venture into the darkest realms seeking the truth to what goes bump in the night.